What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the betting show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sheehan, and today we're going to be looking ahead to the massive UFC 283 card. I have a bet from KSW as well, a very good KSW card this weekend, and obviously this is kind of, I suppose, the big kickoff to the year. We had a great kickoff last week with the betting show, but I suppose for the big fights, this is the big kickoff, and I'm sure a lot of people will be getting into the betting rhythm, I suppose, going on here, and maybe laying their first couple of big bets of the year. So last week, as I mentioned, it went really well, and maybe, you know, while things are going well, I might recap it. If they go bad, maybe I'll stop. But last week, the Eubanks Priscilla Cachoeira fight didn't happen, so that was one of the top four bets written off. Of the other bets, Imavov lost a relatively close decision, so, you know, Strickland definitely deserved to win it. Vieira as well, a very close decision. I actually had her by decision. It was a split decision. Unlucky with that one. And the minus 125 bet that I got right was Kopylov versus Soriano to finish by TKO KO, as it did at Kopylov won that one. But the flyer of the week, Umar Nurmagomedov to win by TKO KO, plus 700 hit, plus 700. So beginners luck for the start of the year. We'll be relying on that one. I'm hoping to get one. You know, maybe one more this year if I'm lucky. But yeah, look, if you could get out of 52, if you could get 3 or 4 of them, you'll be doing very, very well. And I like to give those big prices. I have another big price here to give on this one. And do you know what? I like it. I like the one here, but we'll get into that. So not a bad week to start it off at all. 2 close bets, 1 winning bet, and then 1 massive winning flyer. So I'll take that anytime. So I'm happy with that. 5 more bets for this week, and let's get straight into it, I suppose. And let's talk about. I'm going to start with the 2 big title fight main events for this weekend, and I'm going to go to the quadrilogy first between Brandon Moreno and Deiveson Figueiredo. And my bet for that is, and maybe this is a bet that people wouldn't be expecting, but I'll give you my reasons for it. And it was a close one, to be honest, but I'm going for the fight to finish inside the distance at plus 100. So for either person to win inside the distance at plus 100. And here's my thinking on this one. Obviously, you know, their past fights have been, how would you say? I suppose very, very long, very, very drawn out, very tough fights. The last one went to a decision. The one before that finished inside the distance with Moreno winning. There was a draw, obviously, before that as well. So two out of the first 3 fights have gone to decision, and 1 didn't. So, you know, that's probably why the betting is the way it is. The fight to I'll get up what it is as we recap the bets in a minute. What the price is to finish by decision, but. The reason I'm going for this, and I actually, we'll get into that. The reason I'm going for this is twofold, right? So, I'm really not sure who'll win, right? But I have a theory on how Deiveson Figueiredo will fight. I think we know how Brandon Moreno will fight. I think Brandon Moreno will fight in his really intelligent, smart, efficient way. Try to not to give up too much. Try to land his shots. Try to kind of wait for Figueiredo to not necessarily even gas himself out, but be happy if he does it, wait through the storm and land his shots, be the more accurate, I suppose, technical fighter throughout it. And he's done very well in the previous fights to achieve that, I suppose. For Figueiredo, though, I think it's a different story. How will he fight? We have seen from I just literally before we started this, I went back and watched their third fight, so their last fight, the one previous to this, and Figueiredo fought a very kind of slow, monotonous game, so that Moreno wasn't able to do everything I just said there and pick out the flaws, I suppose, in Figueiredo. Figueiredo didn't really show any flaws in that because he didn't do loads like he normally does. Now, he went out there and he got the win in that fight. But I think he'll go back and he'll watch that. I think his team will watch that. And they will say there are things that you could have done. That was a very close fight. It could have gone either way. But I think they'll say there's things you could have done differently in that fight to win it more clearly and to do it in the next fight to kind of win it more clearly again. And the thing I think he will do is this, and I think the reason he will do it is again twofold. I think first of all, it's on in Rio de Janeiro, it's on in Brazil, it's on in front of his hometown crowd, and he will like that. I'm sure he's been back in Brazil for a good while, acclimating and all of that. But I also think the big difference here is the last time he fought was against Brandon Moreno on the same card around this almost to the day last year that Ngannou Ngan fought on the 22nd January 2022. Moreno's only had one fight since, so that doesn't make a big difference between them, but I think it makes a big difference for Figueiredo because he's known about this fight for a good while now, and he's had a lot of time, I think, to prepare, not just technically and tactically, but I think physically as well. And the weight has been a massive issue for him. You know, I think a lot of people thought that might be his last fight at 125 the last time, and I think this time, I think he will have really, really made that weight as intelligently and as well as he's ever made it, right? And the second part of that says that he will fight at a higher clip because of it. So that's a large part of the reason that I think this fight will finish inside the distance, right? And now here's the second part of the second part. I think it'll either be Figueiredo having a massive pace early and winning it, or Figueiredo have a massive pace early, not winning it, tiring and getting finished in the third, fourth, fifth round by Brandon Moreno. That's how I think this fight will go. So I went a big long roundabout way about saying it, but that's how I think this fight will go. I think Figueiredo will come out and will throw with more, not reckless abandon is probably the wrong phrase, like he used to throw it. I do think he will up the pace. I do think he will be thrown at a higher clip. I do think this will be a more fun fight. And I do think Deiveson Figueiredo will have more confidence in himself. I think Deiveson Figueiredo needs more confidence in himself to be the great fighter that he is. The great fighter that he showed maybe before this trilogy and that he hasn't shown maybe too much in it. And if I was to give my pick straight up, I think that will be successful for him. I think he'll win the fight doing that. But if he doesn't, and he doesn't do it early, Brandon Moreno will still be there in rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5. And he'll probably still be there in round 1, if we're being honest. So, with those two things stuck there together, I think one of them will get a finish. I really do. Plus 100, not the biggest price in the world or anything like that, don't get me wrong. But I really like that bet. I'm basing that bet on how I think the fight will go. And that's really how I do think this fight will go. I really do. I just feel like it's going to go that way. Like, you look at the betting in totality for that fight, both minus 110. They're both absolutely even minus 110. The bet I said earlier I'd give you, the fight to go to decision is minus 130. So just about favouring it to go to decision, but plus 100 to go to, it doesn't go to a decision is the bet I'm going for here. And it's obviously very close, and I suppose it's very close for a reason. If you want to get a little bit better, maybe the under 4.5 rounds is plus 125. But I genuinely think this could be the last 30 seconds of it. And you never know. If you think about it, in the 5th round last year, the 3 biggest fights of the year last year, Pereira and Adesanya, Glover Teixeira and Yuri Prochazka and Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, all ended in the 5th round. You know, so maybe that's an omen. Maybe this will happen the same way. But whatever happens here, I'm really looking forward to this. That's a bet I do like, but I like the fight even more, and I absolutely. I can't wait for this one. It's going to be a really fun fight. I'm so glad that they've been able to make it, and that one of the best divisions in the UFC is being able to be shown off the way I suppose it has been over these last 3 fights and this 4th one as well. I know maybe people will shortcut saying, what are you talking about, John? But the fights, the level of fights, the level of fighters there are probably as underestimated as any division has ever been. Maybe apart from the flyweights a few years ago in MMA history. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to that fight. Right, second bet, and as I said, I'm going to give you the second title fight, and I'm just going for a straight up money line bet here. I'm going for Jamahal Hill. He's around the minus 115 mark, around minus 115. to look at the line where it's gone, I suppose, from the start until now, he opened up at minus 150. So that's interesting, and he's consistently kind of moved up and down a little bit in the last couple of days, but he was minus 123 yesterday, and now he's into minus 150 now. This will obviously be recorded a little bit early, so I'll be out in another couple of days. I think Jamahal Hill will be in, and check obviously your bookie or whatever. I think he'll be into probably minus 105. Maybe it'll be an even minus 110. Maybe he'll be into plus 100 even by the time the fight starts. You never know. I think by the time as well we get to the press conferences and different things, the fact that this is on in Brazil and you're an American fighting a Brazilian over there, I think that's going to be big as well. And the same for Figueiredo and Moreno, obviously with Moreno being Mexican going over to Brazil. And there's going to be a massive advantage there. And I maybe when people see the crowds, maybe the money will start coming in, because that is a big advantage as well. But nevertheless, I'm going for Jamahal Hill, whatever price he is. I just think Jamahal Hill is a fantastic fighter. And, people have, if you've been following me for a while, you've probably seen it and probably heard me say it, that I think Jamahal Hill is a future champion. And I've been saying that for a long time. I said it when he was there in the cage with his arm broken against Paul Craig. I said it. And I've continued to say it now. I think even if Glover Teixeira wins, I'll continue to say it. I honestly, and I said it after his last fight, I think this guy is a guy who right now has probably another 3 or 4 years of improving left in him and can be a champion right now. Imagine what he'll be in another 3 or 4 years. And I say can be a champion right now. I think he will be a champion at some stage, definitely. I think he'll be now. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think at some stage he definitely will be. He's just so good. And with that said, I have great respect for Glover Teixeira as well. We talk about underrated. Glover Teixeira, one of the most underrated fighters in the world over the last number of years. His wrestling is without a shadow of a doubt the most underrated part of any game, I think, in MMA history. And I don't say that off the cuff here. That's something I've said for years as well. Such a good wrestler. Blinds, he's striking so well with his wrestling, and especially has over the last few years. He's gotten better and better and better at it all the time. And you might say to yourself, okay, why are you picking Jamahal Hill? And there are a couple of very simple reasons for that, I think. I described on a podcast the other day, Jamahal Hill maybe having a cyclist's shape, and maybe cyclist was a wrong word. Now maybe more like a rower's body or swimmer's body is the one. Yeah, swimmer's body is probably the one. Big and muscular and not necessarily muscular, but slender, but strong and very, very fast and can move very, very, just really athletic. Glover Teixeira is very athletic in a different sort of way, I think, where he's strong. He moves faster than maybe you could say, and his strength plus his technique add to something very, very special with his mind as well. Whereas I think Jamahal Hill, obviously only a few fights into his career compared to Glover and others, is still learning all that and still putting it all together. And what I've seen from him, he's a very intelligent fighter as well, but he needs more obviously to get to there. And the reason I say that about Jamahal Hill as well, I think that frame is something that will come into great use against Glover Teixeira, because what Glover tends to do at times, and maybe it wasn't so much seen in the Prochazka fight, but at times it was with Prochazka's, similar, I suppose, sort of tall, athletic frame as well. You need to kind of get away from Glover at times, because Glover will lull you in with either strikes, or he'll take a couple of shots from your strikes or his strikes. He'll lull you in, then go for a takedown and push you against the cage. He's great double legs in the middle of the cage, but the fact that he lulls you in is very interesting. I think for the first 2 rounds, Jamahal Hill here, and this is why I haven't given maybe a prop, and we'll look at the props in a second, I think he'll be more careful. I think he will be fighting on the outside, throwing maybe a few high kicks, throwing a few leg kicks, just trying to take Glover Teixeira out of it, I think, a little bit. Just trying to take, and when I say Glover Teixeira, you'll obviously be trying to take him out of it, but I think trying to take his game out of it, trying to take the intelligent nature of his game out of it. And I think you do that by kind of not throwing too much in abundance. You throw big shots, you throw hard shots, absolutely. You try to get him out of there, but if you don't, you wait and you throw the next one and the next one. And I think by the time it gets to maybe the end of the second, third, fourth, fifth, you can start fighting inside more. You can start throwing more combinations if it gets there. and having it more of a fight inside. I think you can start doing that there, because people do, at times we've seen as one criticism I've definitely had over the years, people do tend to give up on their plan A if it's not working. And if someone like Jamahal Hill can stop it from working, then he might stop it altogether from even continuing to happen. Now, I think that game plan, which I think might happen now, I might be 100% wrong, but I think that will lead to Jamahal Hill landing a lot of big shots. I think it will lead to Glover Teixeira committing more to make Jamahal Hill commit, and when he does that, he'll leave himself open. We've seen it in lots of fights where he has left himself open, taken a couple of shots to get into his world, and he is destructive when it does get into that world. But against Jamahal Hill, who hits so hard and who is so good, I think it's going to be very, very tough. I think it's going to be very, very tough. And even if he does survive, it's going to be tough to do it for 5 rounds in that sort of fashion. I'm interested as well to see how the fact that Glover had prepared for another fight, took a week or 2 off or whatever it was, then got back into camp. We've heard people like Bisping, maybe Bisping the best one to say this because he's kind of the guy who kept ultra fit all the time, but Dan Henderson was a guy who liked to do 14-week camps by the time it came to the end of his career. And I'm sure for Glover Teixeira, the fact that he had a great camp coming in for the last fight, that was cut off, and then he had to start a new shortened camp, although he still had a bit of time to prepare for this one. That's not ideal for a guy at his age. And I think that'll probably benefit Hill, even though maybe he hadn't been in a similar sort of situation for a 5-round title fight or whatever it might be. Could that benefit him late? We saw Glover in his last fight struggling late, as I said, against Prochka, and he said it afterwards, I'm getting old or whatever. You have to be in tip-top absolute shape. You can't take one bit of a shortcut at that age, whereas Jamahal Hill, maybe he can. And that's why I've gone for Hill just straight up money line here, because I do think he will get the finish. I think he'll get the finish early, if I'm being honest. But if he doesn't, and I can see Glover maybe surviving, but maybe not having the gas tank right now at this specific time to be able to cope with that. So yeah, that's what I'm giving, and that's what I'm going here. So Jamahal Hill straight up minus 115. Some of the other prices on that, I suppose, while we're on it, the over-unders are pretty interesting. Over 3.5 rounds, plus 265, minus 325 for the under. I think that's interesting. Under 2.5 rounds is plus 180. I don't think that's a bad bet at all. Really, I really don't think that's a bad bet at all. Glover to get the KO is plus 575. You can get as high as plus 750 in some places. Hill is only plus 105-ish to get the KO. I would definitely be betting money line there, if I'm being honest. Either of them to get a submission, big money for Jamahal, plus 2,000, plus 225 for Glover Teixeira. So some interesting prices there. But as I said, straight up betting Glover Teixeira is just about the favourite, minus 105, minus 115 for Jamahal Hill. Next bet, I'm going for two guys actually who just fought Jamahal Hill, Johnny Walker and Paul Craig. And I'm going for Johnny Walker to win this, and I'm going for him to win via KO in round 1 at plus 205. So it's kind of a double prop bet there with the first round and the KO. I just fancy Johnny Walker in this one, to be honest. I think Paul Craig will kind of play into Johnny Walker's hands a little bit in this one, because Johnny has been trying to fight a more even-keeled game in the last while. He used to be a berserker alter, he'd come out and he'd throw everything. And we've seen him and Thiago Santos in other fights recently tried to fight a more planned game, I suppose, if you want to put it that way. Look good at a lot of times doing it. It's not always been successful for him, obviously. He came out and he won last time out, if I'm not mistaken, but the Thiago Santos one was very, very close. But my point here is, if he tries to do that against Paul Craig, I think Paul Craig will be still fighting his mad game. I still think he'll be going in there looking for submissions, trying to pull guard. And Paul Craig, every single time he does that, win or lose, he gets smashed. If Paul Craig, and there's my Hill fight, we've seen it in many other fights, even if he gets you in the submission, he's still getting smashed by you. And I'm very, very, very reluctant to pick anyone to get smashed by Johnny Walker in such a fashion and still win. And that's basically the top and bottom of my pick here. I think Paul Craig will give the openings to Jamahal or to Johnny Walker, and I think he will take them. Even if he's not necessarily looking for them in a massive way, I think they'll just open themselves up. So even in early, obviously, back in anything to be the first round is always a tough one. And just because it's a good price, I think that plus 215 is a pretty good price here. I do think he'll KO him. I do think he'll KO him early. So I like that one, and that's my kind of full reasoning for it there. Obviously, Paul Craig, he can catch anyone in the submission. He's not the best in the world at keeping himself safe early in the exchanges. I think the further the exchanges go, he does get a little bit better at times. But I think if he doesn't keep himself safe against Johnny Walker, he'll have big problems, and I think he'll end up getting KO'd. So let's keep an eye on that one, and let's see how it goes. The price on that one, just straight up, Johnny Walker is the favourite, minus 190, plus 165 for Paul Craig. If you like the Craig submission, plus 375. So that's not a bad bet at all. Walker to win by TKO KO straight up is minus 145. So I have to go first round for that to put it up to plus 250, and I think that's a pretty good bet. So those are interesting there. The over under at around and a half. Under is minus 155. Over is plus 125. I'd probably go for the under there if I'm being honest. So there you go on that one. Right, my next bet here is from KSW, and I have a KSW preview. I think it'll probably be out even before this, so check that out in full for the full breakdown of this and all the KSW fights. But the fighter I'm going for here to win, and the bet I'm going for is Rafal Kijanczuk, who's fighting Marc Doussis, and I'm just going for him straight up at minus 200. The prop bets aren't out yet. If there is a prop bet that comes out for this, take it to win by knockout. So I'm going for the win by knockout. Maybe we can adjust the bet next week or whatever, but I'll go for him straight up at minus 200. I think that's a great bet. It is a very interesting fight. This is a fight, right? This is going to be, I think, the most fun fight of the weekend. KSW, UFC, whatever. Doussis is an absolute berserker. He just rams forward. He's built like Eddie Hall. He just goes straight in there with these wild swinging punches. But a good wrestler tries to take you to the ground. Kijanczuk, though, is an almighty striker. Has 9 first round finishes. I think 10 of 11 of his wins by knockout. And he can hit you really, really, really hard. And I think Doussis will give him the opportunity because he comes in there wide open. This is one of these fights where you look at Doussis and you're thinking, I kind of hope he wins because it's so mad. And I like that style. I like the madness. But Rafal Kijanczuk is a proper fighter. And I think if he does that against him, he will get clipped hard and put away. So I'm going for that. Kijanczuk minus 200 to win straight up. A couple of the other KSW fights there. This fight between the main event is Kindle Grove against Michelle Materla. I'll give you the prices of that in a second. But this fight between Tomasz Romanowski and Radoslav Piechowski, who's 5-0. Tommy is 17-8, so a big difference there. But this Piechowski, he hits like an absolute truck. I don't think I've ever seen a fighter hit as hard as him. It was so soon into his career against such good talent. He hasn't fought a good wrestler yet, and Tommy can wrestle. The price in that minus 150 for Romanowski, and for Radoslav it's plus 115. Yeah, no, I'd nearly go for Kijanczuk. I really like him. I really, really like him. I go from there. The main event as well, then Materla is a big favourite, minus 450 against Kindle Grove. I think Materla will win that there as well. And some of the other bets on the card, very good fights this week. Kleber Silva is on the card, plus 180, minus 250 for Lucas Sadilski. And you can check the rest of them out there as well. A very close fight. I think Boris Mankowski against Valerie Marcia, plus 150 for Valerie. Boris is minus 200 there. Very close as well. Minus 188 for Taturali against Skimansky at plus 138. I broke these down, as I said, over in that video there. And the prices are as close. I hadn't seen the prices when I was recording that, but they're as close as I thought. So very, very interesting there. Right, let's give you the flyer of the week. And my flyer of the week this week is Jailton Almeida to win by decision against Shamil Abdurakhimov at plus 845. Now, you might think Jailton, he's been going out and he's been destroying a lot of lads, and he absolutely has. 17-2, 20-7 for Shamil. And Shamil has been finished a good few times. Let's be honest, he's been finished in these last 3 fights in a row. So look, there's a reason this is a flyer. But the reason I'm going for it is, I suppose, maybe twofold as well. You've seen Jailton Almeida fight and beat some very good guys over the last while, but I don't think anyone at the level of Abdurakhimov, Park Reporter, Danilo Marquez, Turkali, Nasruddinov. I'm looking at the names here. I'm looking even down through the guys he's fought beforehand, and I'm not seeing anyone that sticks out to me, if I'm being honest. Now, I think he's a very, very, very good fighter. He's only gone to decision once, right, in those 19 fights. Now, maybe I'm talking myself out of this. Here. Shamil has gone to decision 7 times, right? Lost once by decision, won 7 times by decision, but that's neither here nor there. I just think that Shamil at heavyweight, at 41 years of age, will kind of make this a fight where he attempts to put himself in a position where he can't get taken down for long periods. And if he does get taken down, he will attempt to stay safe. Right? That's what I think will happen here. Now, will he stay safe for the whole fight? Let's be honest, probably not. Okay? Probably not. But what if he does? What if he can get 3 minutes in the clinch and Jailton Almeida struggles to take him down, and maybe there's a bit of clinch and we get into the next round. Jailton Almeida doesn't even kind of try to take him down. He's just kind of winning on the feed, landing a good few shots. Jailton is not the biggest knockout artist in the world. Okay, he has 11 wins by submission, 6 by KO. What if it turns into a fight like that? You're fighting a big, heavy guy. Like Jailton Almeida is a light heavyweight, going up to heavyweight. Shami is a heavyweight. Like, this guy weighs in, I think, 258 pounds. He's going to have a lot of weight on him. And that's kind of what I'm thinking here. I do think this fight is 100% going to be won by Jailton Almeida. But there is a possibility the fight is taking long. I'd said he got finished in his last 3 fights. 2 of them went halfway into the second round, They did, in fairness. He fought Derek Lewis. He got finished by him when he went into the 4th round, He went to a decision with Andrei Arlovsky, went to a decision with Walt Harris, went to a decision with Anthony Hamilton. So, there you go. Massive price. An absolutely massive price. Plus 845. And you know what? These flyers, I'm going to try to make them massive prices. And this is one here, so I'm going for that. Jailton Almeida wins by decision, plus 845. Right, I got most of the big fights there, but let's run through another couple of them as well before we go. Gilbert Burns and Neil Magny. Burns a massive favourite here, minus 450, plus 350 for Magny. The submission for Burns, plus 215. That was a bet I picked out of this one. I like that. I like Burns to win by submission. Getting Magny to the floor might be an issue, but Burns is really, really good. If you like Burns by the knockout, it's plus 400 as well. Or if you just like him inside the distance, he's plus 105. That's interesting. The fight to go to a decision, plus 105, minus 135. It finishes inside the distance. So it is a favourite to finish inside the distance. Pick one of them for Burns and you might be onto a winner there. I'd probably go for the submission, but who knows on that one. Andrade and Murphy, again, exact same price, minus 450 for Andrade, plus 350 for Murphy. Look, Murphy usually does draw these fights long, so the fight to go to the decision, minus 115, also minus 115. It doesn't go to a decision. It's tough. It's tough. Nothing stuck out to me, honestly, in this one. The Andrade by KO TKO is plus 175. That's probably the most likely outcome, for being honest, but I'm not blown away by that price. Definitely one that I would avoid. I'd probably put Andrade if I was doing an accumulator. I'd probably throw Andrade into it. Mauricio Shogun Huan, his retirement fight, plus 170, minus 195 against Teixeira. The KO there is the favourite for Teixeira, plus 110. Shogun to get the KO, plus 500. I'd probably go with E-Horse just straight up in that one, I think. Munir Lazez, plus 160, minus 185 for Bonfim. I'd probably go for Lazez there. Rodriguez is a big favourite against Bruno Ferreira. Plus 350, minus 350, plus 285 for Ferreira. If Rodriguez turns up and he fights as well as he can, I think he'll win, but he doesn't always, so I don't know. I don't like betting on him, to be honest. Maybe the KO, what's the KO price here? I look at it, plus 150. I'd be avoiding that, to be honest. Terence McKinney, though, Terence McKinney early. I always like Terence McKinney early. To win in round 1, plus 135. To win by KO in round 1, plus 300. That's the bet I'd be going for here with Terence McKinney. He is the favourite just about against Bonfim. Nicolas Dalby and Warley Alves, that'll probably be a war. If there was a price for blood in that fight, that's the price I'd be backing. I think Dalby and Alves probably will draw blood somewhere in there. Probably just about go for Warley Alves in his hometown as well. And yeah, those are the big bets, I suppose, for the week. So big KSW card this week, big UFC card. Centurion have a card as well. I know Nikolai Grozdev, who trains out of SPG here in Ireland, he's on the card. He's a big minus 350 favourite there against Hamza Hamri. Aidan Lee from the UK, minus 800, big favourite on that card as well. So interesting to keep an eye on Centurion. They seem to be doing good things. There's an Aries card here as well. Abdurakhimov is fighting Rafael Hartak on this as well, so keep an eye on that. Nothing sticking out massively there to me, but the Invicta fights probably already have happened by the time this comes out. But Ireland's on Katie Saul there. I see she's plus 138 in one book here, so maybe she's she is actually plus 138 in one book. So I think she's due a big win. Really like that Olga Rubin Serena de Jesus fight. I'd probably go for Olga Rubin there. She is actually the underdog, plus 170. So that's if this is out by then, get on that. But we will recap my bets for the week. Moreno and Figueiredo doesn't go to decision, plus 100. Bet 1. Bet 2, Jamahal Hill straight up, minus 115. Johnny Walker to win by KO in the first round, plus 215. Rafael Kijanczuk, minus 200 over in KSW. And the flyer of the week, it's a big one. Jailton Almeida to win by decision at plus 845. I will leave it there. Thank you to everybody for watching, listening. Click the subscribe button. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your big bet for the UFC card this weekend, and I'll reply, and we'll have a little bit of a chat there. So let me know who you're betting on. Best of luck with all your bets, and I'll see you all